Hi friends, Christine here, and I've just got a quick little follow-up video on what I learned while making additional books of these tall, narrow ledger books. So the things that I changed, and again, you can use any papers you want. I have created a few more kits using some new artwork. This was the original, and then I created this old world advertisement one because I thought that would be fun. Then I created a floral, very feminine, sort of pretty version. And then this blue version, because I'm in love with this fabric, so I created a version of the book cover in a similar style. So the things that are different are these different kind of bindings. Like here's the original, which was the tape, and I used gaffer's tape. You can use book tape, duct tape, really almost any tape you have, any cloth tape. And so I made that the original that way, and then I made this book, which there is a whole video including construction. I made this one using fabric, and with the fabric I actually attached it to, or I fused to it some Pellin fusible shear weight interfacing. And I do that whenever I'm gluing fabric to things, especially like board, because it stops the fabric from shifting around. So this was just regular fabric that if I glued, it could very easily shift and move, and it's very thin and the glue seeps right through it. If I add a little bit of interfacing to it, that doesn't happen. It still seeps through a little bit, but not enough to be a mess. So anyway, so that was a fabric spine. Again, link below to the video for this whole tutorial. And then on these two, I used painted fabric, and it was just a white broadcloth fabric, and I'll talk about it in the video with like what I did and how I did it. But I only used this cheap acrylic paint. Then on these versions, on today's new versions, you can see I did the covers, or did the edges, sorry, of the notebooks, because this kind of mimicked the original. And I thought, well, how fun would that be? Let's give it red edges. So I show you how I did that. I don't do a full tutorial, I just give you the overview. This one I do on camera, and it's really easy, so look for that. And then the last thing I share in this really quick video is what I learned while making this version. You can see it has a very nice sheen, and I really love that, but some unexpected things happened while I was creating this. So I talk about that and why you should care. So that's really all. I hope you're all having a great time with these. I'm really happy that so many people like them. I will probably make more because I like them, and make some in different sizes. Like I'll probably do a half size as well. But I really just wanted to show you some new techniques, you know, for coloring the edges and for watching out for things that can go awry. So that's it for now. Go create, be awesome. But first, watch the video. So I'm a little into this part of the project, and it was just kind of an afterthought idea, but I want to paint the edges of this next journal ledger like the original. And these, you see, had red pages, and I want to see if I can mimic that. So I have clamped them all together just with cardboard, and I am going to spray paint them with the only red spray paint I have, which is claret wine, and then let them dry for a few minutes, and then hopefully I should be able to separate them, and they will have this sort of red edge. So at the last minute before spraying, I decided to protect my clamps, because I share these clamps with other people, and I didn't want to just paint them all red. So I just wrapped them up with some painter's tape and some a plastic bag. These are my own. I don't care. I have hundreds of them. They could get painted on. So I'm just going to make this easy. Rip this apart. You can see at first I thought, oh, I'll just paint just tape the handles, but then I thought, well, then I've got to get all into there and all that. So I know a lot of makers aren't that worried about mess. as you probably know, I tend toward tidy. So I also just, again, these aren't, I share these with some other people, and I didn't want to say, oh, they're all red now. I don't know why. Anyway, let's take this apart and see what's happening. So here it is as you saw it last, more or less. All right, so I am going to open this up, and I know I should probably be more patient than I've been with it. It's only been 20 minutes or so, but look at that. Isn't that wonderful? So I probably could have given it an extra coat, and I have a tiny bit of bleed in, so I guess I should have clamped more tightly. But I mean, in general, I'm pretty pleased with how this is going to look in my next narrow ledger. So cool, huh? All right, back to work. Since I really liked how the colored edge, the spray painted edge came on this book, I've decided to try it something else but similar on this book. And what I'm going to do is try and simply ink the edges. So I've protected the outer edges of the signature with scrap paper, and then I'm using some cardboard to keep this together. And we'll see. I don't know. It could work. And I'll come back in here and squeeze that tight after I unclamp everything. So I'm going to just go along the whole edge. Now these curves are a little bit uneven, so there's not a lot I can do about that. It was the way the cutter chomped them. But let's just see if we can't get some nice color on this one too. Now it probably won't be as even because of the spray paint was pretty even, but it just has to look like it started out colored, right? And some of it's going to wear, and same thing, there's going to be some difference in the shading there because the curves are not cut as cleanly as the sides. Okay, so I'm going to come here and hold this as tightly as I can from here. Just trying to keep it really tight. Get that corner done. And do the same thing here. Holding it as tightly as I can. This ink may never come off my hands. Let's see how we did. All right, well, it is blue, so that did work. So if you don't want to go through all the trouble of spray painting, you can just ink these edges. And you probably, if you're careful, because this is going to get glued to the cover, so if we got a little bit on this, it won't show. But if you wanted to just do it by holding it tightly closed, but you want to keep it very tight because otherwise you'll get some bleed through on the actual pages. And here we did not, and it's beautiful, and I love it. So just another idea. Oh, and for this I am using fade-resistant dye Memento in teal zeal. So for this cover, I'm going to use painted fabric, and I just wanted to show it to you. So it's just this very finely woven cotton. I know I got it at Joann's, that's all I can tell you. It might be what they call broadcloth, or I'm totally making that up. But it started out white, and I simply painted it. First, this hideously bright blue, which obviously I looked at and said, ooh, I don't really like that. So then after it dried, on a second coat, I dry brushed some brown, a nice kind of warm brown. And then I also, on the same piece, just took a wet paper towel and smeared it a little bit so that this is how it looked. So I'm going to use that, and it's going to look like an old ledger. I use the same fabric on this version, and I have scrap left over, so I'm going to use it for this one. And all I need to do is trim it to 2 inches, because I know that's where I've been kind of keeping the widths of my spine. And I need to get my handy dandy rotary cutter, which sometimes works. And if you guys know any trick to keeping them sharp or working them correctly, because I really find that I often struggle with them and I can't get them to behave and act as they should, or act as I see other people make them. Oh, that wasn't too awful. Okay, so then for here, for this one, for the painted fabric, when I made this one, I believe I trimmed it before I glued it, because it can get, it's a little thicker, and it can get a little trickier. So I'm going to trim this to 9.5, because I know that's the height of my book. So I'm going to line up my horizontal edges, and first just get a straight edge here. Make sure I've got 9.5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9.5. I do. So I'm going to stick this here and then just, well, that was a little better. All right, so I know I want 9.5, and I always have to cut on this side. So let's see. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9.5. So this will go here. I'm gonna line up my little dots and chop. Okay, so now it's just some glue. So for here, like all of them, I've been doing 3/4 of an inch on the front, and it makes the back a little bit longer, but I like the look on the front. So I'm going to mark 3/4 of an inch. Just makes life easier. I'm going to say, okay, so I'm going to go from the spine itself, not where the cover ends, which is a little bit shorter. I'm going to just say that's 3/4 of an inch. Put my handy dandy square ruler on here. So it should be reasonably straight and perpendicular to the top and bottom of the book. And there we go. And the back I'm not going to worry about. So now I'm going to take my painted piece, some scrap paper, and glue it up with some Fabri-Tac. So like other fabrics, it might seep through a little, but it will dry clear and you'll be happy in the end. I've tried other glues and with less positive results. I used PVA for one of the books I did here, and it was far more difficult than it needed to be in terms of how long it took to dry and working with the material during the process. So let's take this off. And then decide I want the browner side on the front. Should be the right, you see that? Should be the right height. There we go. Clean up the hands a little bit. Turn it over, press it down, and then just gently, I'm not pulling very much. And now I am pulling a little because I want it to go to the end. So see here too, I did not seal this fully, so the paint will and can scrape off. So that's something to keep in mind. But for me, you know, again, I like the ruggedness of it, the old worldness of it. So now I'm just coming along the back of the spine making that nice ridge, the back of the covers along the spine, and getting the glue to stay attached. There you go. So I'm not going to open it yet because I want the glue to have a little bit more time to dry, but I'll give you a quick flip through at the end of all of the little things and the tips I used. So this is a little something I discovered in my attempt to make my next version, which is going to be this advertising, as shimmery as this varnished original. So in my original that I created, I did varnish it, and you can see there's a little satin sheen to it, but I didn't do it heavily. I just did it enough to give it a little shimmer. And it was done, as you remember, with the gloss clear spray, the sealer. So I went to do that for my new book that I want to make, and I wanted it really shiny. So you can see I really have picked up some good sheen. Again, similar to the original. I love that. It's going to be a great little book. But what I discovered as I went to putting it together is that it also makes it somewhat transparent, which we should have known since we use this sealer on tissue paper to make glassine. But yeah, it made it very transparent. So this is like 3 or 4 coats of the sealer, and as each coat soaked in, it just made it more and more transparent. Now this design has only 1 coat of the sealer on it, and it still has a tiny bit of sheen, but not anything like this, but it's also not transparent. So I bring this up because if you were using cereal box to make your book, which I strongly suggest, I'm using chipboard, so it's not going to really matter. I'm going to put this on here, it's going to look just fine. But if you were using this and put this on here, you would be super disappointed. So the solution to that is, A, don't spray it so much, don't have it quite as shiny, or make sure you're using the interior side of the cardboard, which is fine because if you're using a hefty paper like this HP Premium 32, you won't see through it once you glue this paper down. Let's see if you would see through it when you glue down the copy paper though. Hardly. I mean, you'd have to know to look for it. So I think you would be safe for that. But again, it's just something I wanted to give you a heads up because I never want you to get to a step in a project and then be disappointed. So that's something to know. So there you have it. Just some tips and tricks and things that I learned while I was making multiple books. And you can use fabric, you can use tape, you could use painted fabric, and be aware of the transparency issue if you're using too much sealer to make it shiny, and maybe you want to make these beautiful painted edges, which I just love. However, the blue way was so much easier. You just really could just do it on any book you wanted. So that's all I've got for you today. I'm going to go make some more of these. I'll see you next time. Go create, be awesome.